Falcons are going to be starting off on the attacks. They are going to be given the benefit of that aggressive map advantage that we do get here. BDS, they're not going to differ too much from what they banned in the previous map of Oregon. They're going to remove the Ying here. And as the desk was saying, where do you look toward an attacker ban here? What do you want to try and restrict on the side of BDS? Because everything can be substituted and a lot of things can be replaced. They're going to opt for a Thatcher.
So Thatcher will get himself knocked out. Not going to be hugely surprising. So we do still tend to see a bit of that emphasis on hard breach, especially for a few of our sites. But I'm going to see him knocked out. There's the Valkyrie ban. We were talking about how we needed to see that, and indeed we get it from the Falcons side of things. So BDS will not be able to rely on that extra intel going into their second map. And now we'll see the final ban come up from BDS. This will be the self-handicap ban, as they'll also have to deal with it here on the first few rounds. Mira will be knocked out. Once again, as we've been seeing her knocked out quite handily, not only in this tournament, but many, many tournaments in the past. Just far too handy on this map to provide that intel boost to the defense.
Mira Valkyrie, you can't go wrong with that. You've got to remove these two when you're looking toward a border. If you went through and re-watched the last map, I would love to know how many kills you can credit to a black eye camera, because Shaiko was a nightmare with those cameras. So removing that Valkyrie, taking away that opportunity for that information, something that we know BDS plays incredibly well off the back of, as do most teams, is going to hamper that performance somewhat. The Mirror there getting removed as well. Mirror fantastic on just about every single map there is. Specifically on certain sites, you would really look to try and bring it to enhance and really spread that hold somewhat, but not going to be an option. Instead, we're just going to be left with a lot of utility and a lot of fraggers. We're still going to have a little bit of information in there as well, but it isn't going to be as prevalent.
Well, let's see. You can hear the Falcons fans chanting out inside of the audience. Saw more and more of them trickling in over the course of map 1. Now with those 2 rounds picked up at the end of it, they're looking to see their team be victorious here on the second map. We'll just have to wait and see if that will be the case. BDS setting up quite heavily on the inside of CCTV to start things out here, bolstering the defense, of course, on the actual site inside of lockers. This will be a cutaway position, so we'll see that player fall back if things get a little bit too hot for them to deal with at a midpoint in the round. But that's all up to the Falcons and how they intend to clear out this extension.
You really can't avoid attacking into CCTV either. It can be very difficult to attack into, but it can equally be very difficult to defend. Good opportunity is to try and get in below. We can see some nades, some drones, being placed in there to try and gain is customs clear. Can we enter in through that area? Can we look to put a bit of vertical pressure onto these players that are likely occupying security? Got to get yourself out there onto the rappel. Joker taking a huge chunk of damage there. Fortunately, on the Finker can stim himself back up, wait for that to regen and get himself to just above half.
Falcons a little bit restrained at the moment, trying to see if they can maybe catch an early rotation mistake from BDS before they fully commit themselves to the interior of the building. Lem's very much ready to potentially challenge against some of those angles too. He gets a bit of fire back after he goes out towards that window. But not anything he's going to be too courageous about, so much so that he would go back towards it. Meanwhile, O'Kill's just going to get run out by Shaiko, but that's exactly what Kotos was set up to counter. He needs to go for 2 though, as he is now being challenged by a second member of BDS. Swings around to get the kill, and he's going to find it as Rafal gets knocked out here.
A little bit of an assist there from the Finker stim as well, just giving Kotos that little bit of extra boost that he needed inside of the engagement. He can now look to take on that 90 corridor, but doesn't really want to extend too far out of security for the time being, and quite rightly so. BDS are primed, ready and waiting for this refrag. They know exactly where he is going to be, and they're not rushing too much to get it. Alemzi's tucked himself right into offices here, looking to try and play in and around the breach, not wanting to give up this ground, because as soon as you give up office, that's a direct line then on into the site. Alems does have a bit of information to play with, but he has been droned. Can drop though, and of course on the Oryx can make his own way back to site.
Strained, slow style of play is working out so far for the Falcons to try and capitalize on the aggression from BDS. As you said before, though, BDS playing into this with a lot of info for themselves, even having the Thunderbird to fall back on, but Red Shearer wanting to get a chance to use it. BDS goes hyper-aggressive and just walks directly into the setup.
Move through and clean up shop, and that's exactly what they did.
So the Falcons off to a booming start. Gonna look to try and carry that forward here. A little bit of a change up with regards to the strategy though for BDS. We're gonna see them bring a few new wrinkles into this one, most notably the Frost coming out for Playday. Also going to see a Bandit picked up by Alems and a few other adjustments starting to show up as well. So we'll see how all of this comes together as BDS looks to still try and control things here on the initial site choice. They're making a second run of it, calling that first round out as a bit of a fluke and hoping that they might be able to course correct on round number 2. Very similar setup with the Azami barricades going down inside of CCTV as they'll look to also defend this in a similar way, but the Bandit battery is going to help out to reinforce those office side walls that were breached really quickly by the Falcons in the last round and were quintessential for them pushing into the site.
Attackers dropped the diffuser.
Well, the Falcons were successful there inside of round number 1. Let's see how they're able to do here in round number 2. We saw a lot of aggression from BDS. Shaiko was getting himself out onto the balcony and really getting himself in and around the action. Maybe, just maybe, he's going to do the same again here, or alternately, maybe play a little bit more reserved. We are seeing that slightly more reserved lineup coming out here from BDS. We've got Playday rocking the Frost, just trying to catch people out in some of those welcome mats. And again, a heavy presence inside of security with those Azami Kiba barricades to play off the back of. It is a real nice way of just keeping yourself safe and giving yourself a few less angles to be too concerned about.
Sneaky drone there, hiding out behind the Kiba barricade that Shaiko just walked past. Obviously only going to really be useful for audio intel, which Shaiko is denying to a decent extent by mainly crouching around here, but still the Falcons definitely prioritizing the knockout of Shaiko. Going to see if they can get the nade from below, and they nearly do. It's not close enough, unfortunately. That's going to seemingly activate Shaiko. He works himself out, finds his initial pick against Kota. Is going to try and quickly reinforce that opening that was just made via a nade as well. Thankfully won't be under any immediate threat as Falcons don't have the confidence to push directly in and knock him out. Nitro out over the top, but we won't see it explode as the nade from Joker is just a little bit quicker.
Lem's there going to be the first to fall on the side of BDS. He did get his C4 out there, but it didn't really come to anything. Whereas we saw C4s being huge on Oregon for BDS. They are yet to find too much success in the opening couple of rounds. Okills takes a huge amount of damage there as he starts to try and push into that armory area. But Shaiko is still not being dealt with here. Previously, he gave himself away by running out and taking out one of the players of Falcons, but this time he is sat tight, and it is causing quite the problem here. Kills are continuing to trade elsewhere, but with Shaiko still holding down inside of security, it isn't going to be too straightforward to root him out of there. Madskills, he's going to get a little bit of a stim as he looks to try and push on into players in Fountain and Archives. But on the Hibana, he's only got so many bullets to make these challenges with.
Okills gets that finishing blow off on the Shaiko, finally ending his rampage. Much greater contribution from the inside of CCTV this time, but the rest of his team has not been able to hold as well. The Falcons still with a +1 advantage as we move into the final 30 seconds of play and need to begin leveraging themselves into a position to execute here. Playday, though, still in the depths of office, closer to Fountain right now. Okills, though, already knocking out his teammate, but even though we see the Frostmat kill come out, it won't matter as Okills shuts down the last player on BDS as well, handing a second round to the Falcons.
That would have been a terrible way to go if the Frostmat had dealt the finishing blow in that round, but fortunately the Falcons still had that man count advantage, and that is in part just to how successful they were in the opening portion of the round. They didn't choose to deal too head-on with Shaiko, but he really wasn't too much of a factor. Sure, he held a lot of space, but the Falcons just attacked where he wasn't. They put a lot of their energy into that office side take, and it really worked out for the Madskills. Had some cracking shots there inside of the office in onto the Archives.
Almost seemingly targeting the support for Shaiko, the fallbacks that would have helped him to get out of that situation, which obviously left him off on an island when they had those initial difficulties dealing with him. Great adjustment to the strategy for the Falcons is obviously the earlier kills they do get leave Shaiko detached from his teammates and ultimately susceptible to getting picked himself, which is exactly what we see happen. And as you said, yeah, he maintains space, but it's a moot point when the Falcons have taken over the rest of Office and seemingly the rest of the map surrounding that site. So they'll take a confident win for themselves on this second round. BDS will finally have had enough of that upstairs holds the move beyond that. Over instead into Janitor to see if they can try and clean things up here and finally get a round on the board.
Well, true to its form, Border is living up to being an attacker-sided map, as we're seeing the defenders have a very tough time of things at the moment to get around on the board, and that's just in part to how friendly Border is for attacking sides. It can be just so difficult to keep control of key areas. Shaiko are going to opt for a little bit of a change of pace in this round at least. He's going to be playing Pulse on the heartbeat scanner. Now he's going to be able to call out and say a couple of people on rappel, moving upstairs. Alternatively, he can run out off the back of his own information, which I really wouldn't put it past him, to be honest.
We're continuing to get a good amount of intel bleed in terms of what's going on over here on the west side of the map. Oak Hills, but now he's grouped up with at least one other player, and you'll notice there's finally not going to be that resistance pointed out from CCTV. That would really be needed for the site hold regardless. The emphasis is going to be much more on the inside of lockers there, although we do see a bit of a swing from Renshiro. Dealing some decent damage to Oak Hills, but J-Lad coming in for the great support to make up for that. Quickly, fully knocks out Renshiro, leaving the players on BDS down a player yet again.
First blood there going to go toward Falcons, and the second before we see a response. Shaiko makes a C4 land as Joker's going to push himself in now to Tellers. Has a couple of angles to work with and does get swung on, but the shot isn't landed. He can, of course, choose to stim himself up, but he does still have a nade in pocket, so plenty of utility to continue to take on these engagements, and more better than the LMG to just rip through barricades and soft walls. Rafal is left to try and make a little bit of a rotation. He will, of course, be the player that missed those couple of crucial shots a little bit earlier. Playday dropping back down onto site as well as BDS look to try and consolidate here.
BDS trying to contain the chaos that's being thrown at them by the Falcons. It's very much controlled chaos, though. It's a great formula to be able to knock out these players on an individual basis. As you're seeing against Shaiko right now, trying to contend against it, or more so escape it more than anything. He'll be able to get away into the depths of the site, but now he's going to run away from a nade as well. Shaiko in hot pursuit right now, and he can't outrun the Falcons. Oak Hills knocks him out, and Oak Hills, what a quick follow-up on Playday as well. The plant going down, Rafal the only one left. He's completely out of the site. He'll be able to pick up the first of 4 needed here, but still, positionally, he is out of it entirely. Needs to try and negotiate a major comeback here. Otherwise, it'll be a third round onto the board for the Falcons as they are dominating on this attacking side so far. And there you have it, Mad Skills finishes it up from up on top.
Chaining round after round after round. Falcons doing an incredible job here. The crowd is really starting to get behind them as well. They were starting to make a little bit of noise toward the end of Oregon. We saw, a couple of flutters of chances from the Falcons on that map, but here and now they are in full swing. The chants are going, and that's going to mean a lot if you're sat on that stage. If you know that you've got the crowd behind you, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better about everything that's going on. And for BDS, they are still looking to find success here. None of the sites that they've been to so far have worked. They're going to take us down into Tellers and Bathroom, which, let's be honest, it's not great, an easy site to try and defend onto. Any site that has a direct line from outside to in through a single window or through a doorway is always going to be a difficult one. And this site has that all-important window into Tellers.
We do oftentimes see teams try to set this up as a little bit of a kill box to where they position themselves directly outside or near that window and essentially try to trap their opponents into going for that type of an execute, only to collapse upon them the second they think they are safe. Even so, it's a bit difficult for the defense to directly counter out that type of a push just because of the way that the window and the interior site is formulated. So we'll see how exactly BDS tries to handle this. You can see they very much want to take the hands-off approach to the interior of the site. Not going to be directly contesting against it to start. Looking to try and spread their wings a bit, see if they can get these opening picks, which have been eluding them for the previous 3 rounds, and then fall back closer to the site when Falcons make a bid for it.
Confidence certainly on the side of the Falcons at the moment. You've only got to look at the scoreboard to realize that. Madskill's 4-0. He's playing the Hibana as well. He's not really looked upon to get a large share of frags, but he's still managing to do so. Oak Hills as well in a very successful game so far. Certainly 2 players you can really keep your eye on moving into this and future rounds. Alem's just going to be playing at the top of these east stairs, playing patiently for a pick, and he might be given an opportunity here. Does have the MX4 Storm, an incredibly fast fire rate weapon, and he's looking to take quite an aggressive challenge here, just trying to bait his opponent into that swing and into that peak. No cigar for the meantime.
BDS doing a much better job of wasting out the time, and in this specific round here, losing a much lower amount of their player count. as obviously we've still kept things up towards a 5v5. Some intel coming out, I believe, from BDS there as far as a player potentially being positioned out over on the eastern balcony, but I don't know if that's going to actually end up being correct. Finally, we start to see some damage roll out. As players from BDS do try to contest against this push from Oak Hills, moving on to the inside of break room and security. He'll be knocked down to right above 60% of his health pool. Lems will take an arguably greater amount of damage, so he'll be brought down to right around 50.
BDS really not looking to give anything away here, so much so that Playday is going to make use of the pocketed reinforcement and just block off a further line of sight here, as a lot of the clock has been wasted now. We're getting in for 2 minutes that has been burnt up until this point, but we first of all have to see that opening kill, and that is going to go to Oak Hills. Lems sent to the cameras.
Kills continuing to make his impact, but Shaiko, quick to run around here into Passport, or Customs rather, is going to be able to work himself up, knock out Oak Hills, and keep the numbers even down to a 4v4. Joker with the was that
How
the roof
does he get
repel?
away with that?
What? Works himself in here, repels all the way down to just outside of the site. Kotos makes another impact here for the Falcons as well, brings the numbers back into his team's favor. BDS going to need to try and strike back against this. They're stuck on the interior of the site now, but at the same time, look at some of these health pools on the Falcons. Mad skills. Obviously seeing J-Lad go down there at the hands of Renshiro. Koto is also at about 5 or so HP here. This is going to be a rough push from the Falcons, with the members of BDS still well and secured inside of the depths of those sites. Mad skills right around the corner from one of the players on BDS as well. He's going to get caught by it. 2 in a row for Renshiro and Shaiko. Finally looking like we're going to get this team onto the board, but hold on, Kotos not done fighting just yet. He's going to take this to the bitter end of the timer, where ultimately he will be knocked out by Shaiko, and indeed we will finally see that round from BDS go up onto the board.
I would have been a little bit worried there if Joker had gotten away with anything. Nobody gets away with rappelling down from the roof. I'm sure that that's what we caught him in the animation, right toward the bitter end of the rappel there. BDS have managed to stabilize, and they have managed to pick themselves up an all-important round here, not allowing it to just be a total clean sweep over to the Falcons here. Something that they did really well inside of this round, the trade game from Shaiko. He was in the right place at the right time. No one paid that much attention to him over inside of Customs, but they really, really needed to. That narrow channel that they created at the bottom of those east stairs as well, with the castle barricade, a little bit of a rotation as well, it just turned into a kill zone, and that's exactly what BDS used it for. Got themselves on the board here, and they can look to try and salvage this half.
More than likely going to be a bit of a worrisome win as far as the Falcons are concerned, as well as that's really the tertiary site for BDS. You've mentioned it, a pretty difficult one to defend because of the direct access from the outside, but BDS seems to excel inside of it. For me, this is going to allude to a greater scope of change for BDS, that they're finally starting to understand how to isolate out members of the Falcons and get a much greater advantage going for themselves inside of at least the first 2 minutes of play. So now we have to see if this comes to bear, as they're going to go back to the upstairs hold, where unfortunately they just have been unable to negotiate even a close round here against the Falcons. It's been all the Falcons all day here, as they've taken 2 attacks on this site already. BDS is going to see if they can finally change that record up a bit by locking things in for the defense on a 3rd attempt.
A lot of it hinges on how well Shaiko plays inside of CCTV, really, and you shouldn't put a lot onto one player, but BDS are essentially sending him out there and saying, look, Shaiko go play in CCTV and security.
Shaiko go kill.
Shaiko go kill if he can, or just try and stay alive and eat up a little bit of utility. Those keeper barriers really are a great friend for him. He's playing quite aggressively here, immediately gets called out by the in-game announcement saying that he is outside. He's got the drones to contend with, and he knows that this is going to be the biggest problem here. But he, of course, does have the benefit of these barriers that regenerate over time, and he can use to try and block up a lot of those holes.
2 drones been knocked out by him here over the past few seconds. Not indicating towards anything greater here, though, as far as Falcons' drone game. They still have 6 to go, so well over half of the potential drone lineup for them. Obviously, most of these have been wasted on Shaiko, but that's very much needed, as we've seen in past rounds here, Falcons very much want to actively hunt down players like Shaiko, especially if they can isolate them out onto an island here. So we might see that ignorance play into it. Indeed, at least for Joker, we will. Works himself out into the fight versus Shaiko mid-retreat. Takes him down, and another one is quickly shown as well against Mad Skills, with him taking down a Lems. Another beautiful start to the round from the Falcons. Just 3 kills away now from locking in a 3rd consecutive victory on this site.
A couple of quick kills, and they've still got nades left to go as well. Joker has one in his pocket. I'm sure he's going to be saving that for a pretty special occasion in a moment. These BDS players are getting funneled and constricted in onto the site, and they are continuing to fall, shaping up to be a flawless, but not quite. Still the next best thing. 4 players alive from Falcons right at the bitter end of that one, and they maintain this lead.
Falcons continue to excel here on Border, showing indeed that there are no slouches in this matchup. They want that third map. They want the ultimate victory as well if we go the full distance. And already making good progress to try and lock things in quickly on map number 2, setting up a 4-1 scoreline as we get ready to head into the final round of the opening half. But obviously a test will sit before this team. Moving back over to that defensive side, we'll have to see if their strength echoes onto that just as much as it has for the attack. Because remember, back on Border as well, we saw that very two-dimensional performance coming in from the Falcons. A little bit lackluster on their attacks, but able to course correct for the second half and still put up those 2 rounds before ultimately succumbing to BDS's 6-0 start.
Last round of the defense here for BDS. They're going to be taking us into workshop and ventilation. See if they can try their hand down there. Of course, bathroom and tellers will still be locked out, and maybe not somewhere that they want to try and get lucky on again, as it could just be that Falcons are now prepared to go back there or not. As you said, tertiary site, always a little bit of a difficult one to judge. But for the meantime, Falcons have been really successful on every other site that they have attacked on into. The BDS have been forced into this very sort of passive playstyle where quite often there's just a lot of them getting caught on the site after that roam game has initially failed, or that lurk game. But it can be very difficult to pull off on a map like Border. And BDS, an experienced team, they are going to be very cognizant of that, and I don't think they're going to get into their own heads too much.
Kotas will open up a small line to try and play into the downstairs push towards the bathroom there. If the need should arise for it, we'll follow that up soon. Sound like they actually had the jail lineup. Now that I see this better, Lems is going to be able to strike first. A little bit out of nowhere this time too. J-Lad on the sledge going to end up getting caught out. This is probably mid-barricade slap with the sledgehammer there. So he's going to be able to take him down on that. Oh, kills though. So impressive with these entries as he snipes out Renjiro from just outside of CCTV and quickly equalizes things back down into a 4 versus 4.
Got to be a fan of all kills as well, rocking the Furious skin. I'm a big fan of that. Must be what's giving him that lethal edge there in those opening engagements. Lems just toying with an engagement outside of Archives. Going to turn his attention elsewhere for the time being, as a nade will be sent on through, but a peek from Playday nets him 1, but not the second. Gets a little bit overzealous there on the re-peek, and it gives an option for Kotas to push himself on through. Can now look to try and deal with LMs inside of the Archives, and will at least get the down onto him. Won't be known of that at the time being, but the nade comes through. No, he gets a team kill with the nade. I thought he went through the hatch. What has gone on?
We can hear it rolling as well, so an unlucky catch for the Falcons, as now BDS, through no prowess of their own, have been able to push themselves into a 3v2 scenario. Falcons not out of this one just yet either. Still over a minute to play. You can see Koto is ready to hop right down into the hatch. A bold play indeed. Goes for the quick fuse nade, but that's going to be a little bit too much intel. Given over towards BDS. Makes the play that much more obvious, and it's a quick shutdown against him for Rafal. Joker will be able to hold on, trading out a Lems and bringing it into a 1v2. Beepers are going to catch him, and so will this heartbeat sensor, as we'll also get the signal from the diffuser being picked up. They'll know he's going to start conquest toward the drop at any moment here. And here we go, down through the hatch, and surprisingly, BDS, they're not ready for it. He gets the first kill, is going to try to recover as he goes down the second time, but no, will not be the case. BDS locks it in and is able to get a second round for themselves at the end of the half.
Feels closer than it should have been that last round. You've got the heartbeat scanner. You should know exactly where he is. Like the fact that Shaiko's let him out of his vision for that long to now drop a hatch, and Playday gets caught essentially looking the wrong way. Real risky stuff there. BDS managed to pick up 2 rounds on their defense. Is that going to be enough? Quite possibly could be. Border can be a very difficult map, and if you're sat at this thinking a 2-4 split as we move into our attacking half, yeah, we're not feeling too bad about that. And I don't think that BDS will be feeling too bad about that. But the Falcons, they played the game that was in front of them, and they took every advantage that they could have done.
So we're going to see their first bout of defense here, as obviously the sides will switch. Falcons going for the same starting site up here inside of lockers. Is going to bring actually somewhat similar lineup as well. We'll see the Thunderbird come out for them to be able to fall back upon. Might even be throwing one of the Kona stations down on the inside of the CCTV extension, which is something that we actually didn't see members of BDS end up doing. Aside from this, it is going to look pretty similar in regards to utility mitigation being the priority here for the Falcons, but obviously while that little wrinkle with Mad Skills bringing out the Legion as well to trip up the more forward assaults from BDS if they end up running into those goo mines.
I kind of like the Nomad from Rafale as well. I kind of like that, look, we're going to try and pin you in here. We're not going to give you that space to move in, and we're not going to let you run out because we know what happens when that's allowed to happen. It can be very dangerous indeed, but the Legion pickup again, equally as good. It's just going to do a lot to slow down that push from the attackers, especially if Mad Skills stays alive long enough for plenty of those goo mines to regenerate over time. It could really cause quite the nuisance. Those Rune Gates, they've been placed fairly out of the site. That's quite an extended hold there into East Airs, really. You would usually expect to see them a little bit closer in. They can be very easily burnt out on the extremities, and you're not realistically going to be able to hold the entirety of border as much as you might want to. It is very difficult to do.
So for the players here on BDS, looking to try and recenter themselves and take back control over this matchup. As you said, wanting a lot of control over the round as well with the pickup of the Nomad here. Going to be stuck on drone for the time being as they try to isolate out these players closer to tellers. Lems has a good idea of the general area. I believe it was Oak Hills roaming around this spot, but is not going to be able to find them that quickly. Rafaldo will be able to catch out Joker, giving the first kill of the round finally over towards BDS. Mad Skills still maintains a presence, though, on the inside of CCTV and the surrounding hallway. So there is still that issue to be dealt with as BDS can now finally focus on the upstairs. Clear, great timing on this play from Lems as well. Catches J-Lad just when he came out to check it himself. So that's a nice headshot being lined up for the members of BDS. And another kill going to be found as they finally isolate out Mad Skills near the CCTV area and take him down too, forcing back the presence of Oak Hills further into the site here. Out of necessity, obviously, as we're down to a 2v5.
Difficult spot for Oak Hills to be in. At least he's managed to rotate himself as far back as Fountain. Shouldn't be too much of a difficulty to get himself into Archive, but he's now the last player standing as Shaiko draws blood as well. Renshiro, he's going to be credited with that final kill, and BDS start things off with a flawless here, really stamping down that authority on the attack.
Indeed, their opponents allowed to get away with a whole lot in the previous half, so it seems like BDS are going for the shutdown now at the beginning of the second half, and very well could do it if that attacking prowess, as we talked about before, this map tends to generally favor that attacking side. That continues to burn through for BDS, and we see some of the more top players of this team start to shine through as well. We saw them in that previous half. Shaiko, for instance, struggling to maintain his own solo CCTV extension due to how well the Falcons were able to knock him out on the majority of those rounds. But we'll get into the next one now. As you can see here, we'll find out exactly how the Falcons look to rebound themselves as they'll actually go for the teller's hold now directly on round 2. Not going to mess around with the second attempt upstairs in lockers.
Maybe looking for a bit of the same fortune that BDS found on this site, although they are going for a slightly different setup. No castle barricade here, so they can't really do too much of the same thing, but the sentiment does remain. Got a little bit of information for now there inside of the Mozzie. A little bit of a different slowing / trap operator here as the Legion has been substituted out for a Malusi, as you can use those Banshees to gain a somewhat similar result to the goo mines. They are just a little bit less intrusive and don't, of course, cause damage. Slightly easier to see and deal with as well. Maybe that is going to be a little bit of a difference. Now, I don't think that BDS really were expecting to come up against the Cade here. Now, it's easily dealt with. Nade through. There's a lot of options to try and get rid of that electric law. It's just going to be something that slows them down in the first opening part of the round.
Things will continue to evolve here for BDS. They'll just look to quickly open up jail. Obviously, will prove itself to be a bit of a jumping off point for this team to use to move themselves further into the first floor, quickly clear out any extension towards areas like ventilation. The Falcons may have tried to deploy themselves into. Looking pretty light as far as presence on that side of the map, however. It's more than likely going to be an easy clear to start things out for BDS. They actually are going to find contact with one of the members of the Falcons. J-Lad will be the first to strike here. Unfortunately, though, not going to be able to make the impact as the Aruni goes down, and no damage returned either. So it's a clean opener for BDS to set up the 5v4. A few members of the Falcons starting to roam further out, like closer to CCTV. We can see O'Kills here looking to get himself into the fray, but we'll have to be cautious now. If he goes down, the 3v5 is not going to be an easy win in any sense for the members of the Falcons. We see O'Kills still trying to push the envelope a little bit further against the clear happening in CCTV. He'll lose himself. One additional player was lost as well, and just one trade from the Falcons to account for all of that. Renshiro went down, but it's still a 4v2, a massive advantage for the members of BDS, especially considering the site that we're assaulting.
BDS really in the driver's position here, just under half of the round remaining. They've got plenty of opportunity to get those last couple of drones out there and gather a little bit more information. Playday does have a couple of drones still alive, so we can maybe rely on those to gather these last couple of locations. Shaiko playing patiently, going to be gifted with half damage there onto Joker, but the turn and burn does get the down, but it is not going to be enough. Shaiko can, of course, just juice himself back up, and he does just exactly that. Mad Skills, he's going to be there to take down at least one onto LMs, but eventually Shaiko is there to deal the damage and deal that final blow. A little bit of a scrappy engagement there. Fortunately, Shaiko was playing on the Finker, so could boost himself up as he did have an adrenal surge ready and waiting. But still, with that man count advantage, you've got a hard time seeing that go any other way than BDS.
So BDS quickly looking to tie this game up and within just arm's reach of being able to do so here now. One more round and they'll take the lead away from the Falcons. Surge ever closer to the 2-0 shutdown that they certainly want in this series. Obviously having to work a little bit harder than even they might have been expecting here, but the Falcons putting up an excellent effort in their own regard to try to hold on. Things looking a little bit bleak so far at the starting portion of the second half for their defense, but we'll look to improve upon that as we now move, I believe, towards a new site once again. Nope, they'll be back upstairs one more time to try this lockers hold, hopefully coming up with a correction after seeing more play back in the second round of the half. But remember, once again, BDS had no problem clearing this out back in the first round here, so Falcons have a lot of work to make up for.
We could be about to see 4-2 splits for the attacking half. It wouldn't be that unusual. We might be set to go into a little bit of an overtime here if Falcons are able to start chaining something together, but they're going to need to start fairly soon. Back upstairs, is it the right choice? Only time will tell. They're going to have to hold into that CCTV area once again. It looks as though the Aruni laser gates are being placed slightly differently this time. We did see a couple on those east stairs and kind of commented that they didn't really come to all that much. This time we've got at least one inside of CCTV, so that's going to do at least something to help secure that location. A little bit of early information there for Shaiko on the drone, tells him what he needs to know about what's going on behind that main wall, as that is more than likely going to be the main focus here for a nade, at least to try and deal with that Cade. Instead, just going to take it as a straight head-to-head gunfight. Shaiko couldn't fight that all day long with the LMG. Boosts himself up, but it's not going to be enough. Rafal, he peeked the corner. He must not have got the memo.
It's just unfortunate timing on the situation for Rafal. I believe he was coming off a repel potentially as well, so no control over that. Once he had committed with the spacebar there, he goes down, and there's no sign of a trade anytime soon here from BDS. That's Falcons finally locking in that 5v4 advantage that has eluded them for most of this map here. Lems, in the meanwhile, he's going to be brought down quite low, unable to hunt down his opponent, which threw the shots at him as well. They'll be a little confused by that, but we'll be able to try and correct upon that as he approaches the east main staircase. Ready for the move up on top, but really doesn't have the HP to justify a fight. Stays in that same spot for too long, gives himself away to Joker, but the good news is, elsewhere on the map, Renshiro ready to take the trade as he knocks out Mad Skills. Only the first kill we've seen from BDS, however, so a lot more work needing to be done as Renshiro is going for 2 here to try and knock out Joker as well.
Lem's almost caught chasing a shadow there. He was sort of doing ring around the rosy with just nobody and got taken out from the top row. Joker looking to cause a little bit more damage here as he can hold this skinny angle for pretty much as long as he likes. Going to hit a little bit of a swing there and get one before being immediately traded. Shaiko there to dish that damage out, but Shaiko 2 will fall. Everything happening in and around those east stairs. That's where Playday is going to be now as well. He sees the better and decides, you know what, I'm not going to go through there because everybody else that has gone through there has fallen. This is very likely going to be a round that Falcons are credited with at the end of things. 3 versus 1. Playday, he might have the case, but realistically, what can he do? He's got 40 seconds to play with, and he's not going to have the best info as to where these remaining defenders are. He's got to make a lot of noise if he wants to try and transition in through to the site. Going to be the easiest thing in the world to do. Tries a little bit of a bait there with a soft breach, but he's going to have to go for the door eventually, and that is really going to telegraph his location. There's no option but to try and take this as a swing. Pops the C4 as it is thrown, and the crossfire now starts to come in. You can just see Falcons all lining up to be the one credited with that one. It's going to be O-Kills to take him out, and they get their first round on the defensive half.
Falcons quickly correcting on their mistakes that were made in the initial round of the half, and now locking it in, shutting down the play from BDS as they are stunted on the west balcony, unable to justify a push further past that point, and is constantly losing players as they attempt to do so. A few trades coming in from the east main push, but you have issues like with players such as a Lems as well, getting caught up trying to figure out where exactly they're getting shot from, not having that full intel, causing a lot of confusion and slowdown, and ultimately leaving BDS without enough players to try and contend in the 1v3 there. So Falcons lock in another win for themselves just when they were about to lose the lead also. So coming in at a very important time of this matchup. Just 2 more rounds needed for the Falcons, and they'll push ahead, taking control of the second map and sending us to our third and final one to see who will close out this series. As far as BDS is concerned, they're looking to make up for things as well, but they'll be on new territory now as we're gonna head to ventilation for the first time for the Falcons. So obviously they've locked in that upstairs site now.
Falcons 1 round away from match point, 2 rounds away from taking the second map in the series. It's a very real possibility that they chain a couple together here. BDS are going to have to really start to show us something. So far, we've only really seen Shaiko pop off in terms of kills. He's 12-5 right now. Everyone else somewhat trailing behind a little bit. And I know that the Shaiko way is, you know, Shaiko go kill, Shaiko go win the round, but you need a little bit of something else from the rest of the gang. And maybe round 10 is when we start to see that come through a little bit more. If you look at on the flip side, very well-rounded performance so far from Falcons. We've got Mad Skills, O-Kills, and Joker all in and around 9 or 8 kills. So really keeping things nice and balanced over on that side of things. Joker immediately seeing a bit of pressure in detention. He did try to get a little bit of an impact trick out there as well as the drones start to flood in to call out his location, but he can probably waste a little bit more time here as he's going to try and stack up these goo mines in an attempt to slow down BDS.
Joker just waiting for an opportunity to strike. He's got 2 goo mines stacked on top of each other there by the supply room window here. Continue to await out a potential opportunity to strike, but BDS are being quite cautious as well, for good reason too. They've had struggles getting themselves even just to the interior hop that they would like to make initially. These Falcons are there almost every single time to contest against it, and we'll see it once more. Joker finds success on this peek out from the inside of supply windows. He'll be able to take down the first target from BDS. That's a Lems falling. Playday took some heat as well, down to about half HP. So once again, BDS struggling to get even themselves into the building, let alone get that opening kill or two, which would obviously help for them to take even more map control away.
We see an adrenal surge there, not really come to all too much as Shaiko peeks himself round into Armory, trying desperately here to make something happen. Heartbeat sensor on JLad is going to be able to call out a lot of this push from BDS as they start to occupy more and more of this top floor. But how much info are they really working with here? Shaiko just waiting for the drone to work ahead of him through beepers. Not sure if he knows that somebody's playing inside a fountain. It's not going to matter. He's going to get the heads up anyway. Takes O-Kills down. There's going to be more players dropping off now from inside of Armory and retreating onto the site. This now allows JLad to use this heartbeat scanner. He's got a C4 in pocket and he is going to let it loose, taking Ranchero down. It's going to dish quite a significant blow there onto BDS, but fortunately, Rafal has taken the heads up option and he's dropped himself onto the server stack. Picks 1 before being traded. 3 versus 2, 30 seconds left. Joker hanging out there inside of ventilation, but Playday is there. He too has dropped the hatch and he's going to try and nail this diffuser down. Mad Skills looking maybe for a little bit of a flank here as Shaiko tries to play cover, but the plant has been stopped for a brief moment. Playday going to reattempt here as the swing comes through. Eventually shots will land. It's a 1 versus 1. Playday gets the job done. Comes off the plant and hits him with the KO.
BDS just barely able to negotiate the win there. Unfortunately, the ignorance to the flank coming in not just once, but twice by the main door entry into ventilation nearly cost them the round. Thankfully, they're able to quickly correct upon that, and we saw a nice pickup at the final end of it here to be able to clutch things out in the 1v1 despite the very nice attempt coming in from the Falcons. Well, we tied up yet again, and that potential overtime that you were mentioning a few rounds back is starting to look more and more likely as these teams start to trade rounds back and forth. No longer is it the streaky game that we had going previously.
Yeah, I think I willed it into existence. I think we spoke about it and then it started to happen. But why not? Let's see an overtime. We've had quick games up until this point. We can run a little bit of overtime, I think. It's going to be good to see both these two teams really going head-to-head for this one. 5-5, all things level. Not a great deal separating either side. And the winner of the next round gets the first opportunity at converting that match point. And if it's BDS, they get the opportunity to convert it into a series point as well, given that they were successful over on Oregon. Falcons on the flip side, they are really fighting hard. And to come back this strong after that Oregon performance, it's credit to them.
Absolutely the case. Falcons showing us that they have a lot more depth to work into their map pool than was necessarily shown us on Oregon, and certainly surprising the international community with just how closely here on border they're able to contend against BDS. Looking to steal this map away from them. Indeed, it's come down to the wire here. The team wants an outright win. They need to go for 2 rounds in a row now. Otherwise, overtime will all but certainly be happening. See a little bit of caution from BDS as well. Multiple these Claymores going to go down and try and bolster any run outs, either from East Main or that interior door to work itself out from the south side, so they don't get tripped up by the generally pretty aggressive play we've tended to see from the Falcons once they start to build up intel. That's another thing I appreciate here about the Falcons is they're not just kind of haphazardly throwing themselves at plays to get kills. It's all built off of really good intel from the defensive side of things as well. So really great strategy being deployed here to have some controlled aggression to slow down the play from BDS.
It is nice to see that controlled aggression. I do hope that's not a default camera still alive, BDS.
I believe it is.
That would be a big old blunder here. Okills has done everyone a service by exposing that as well. Thank you very much indeed. BDS really ought to be dealing with those default cameras a little bit better than that. Lems, he gets himself into 90. He's got a couple of options to work with here. Is he going to be prepared? It looks like he is. Okills, he might be on the defaults, but the players are already in sight, I'm afraid. Lems gets a second chance at that engagement and won't miss twice. Opening kill here going toward BDS off the back of that Lion Scan.
Bit of a rare misstep from O'Kills there, as other than this. He's very much been the rock of consistency for the Falcons that's allowed for them to stay, not only in this map, but the previous one as well, with mad skills being a player that sits right beside him. Things looking a lot more dominant this time, though. All these aggressive swings from the Falcons being denied, as so far it's 2-0 in the favor of BDS. Renshiro taking a little bit of heat from utility, and finally Joker going to be able to make his own impact made as he takes out Shaiko, but only the first kill traded out. Alem's able to go 1-for-1, another pickup here before he goes down as well to J-Lad, so it'll still be a +1 for BDS here as we move into the final 50 seconds of play.
Might be a +1, but it still isn't too straightforward. We've got Joker hanging around at the bottom of the metal stairs there. And we've also got Kotos hanging around at the bottom of the hatch inside of Workshop. BDS needs to use this time now to really effectively drone out and gain that information as to where these final 2 players are. Because in terms of utility, sure, we've got a couple of flashes, but there's no nades really to get the job done here. You've got a little bit of hard breach. You're not likely going to need it. As we see the flashes start to flood through, as Cade, he's going to be full white.
15 seconds.
Sure, with an important pickup here, and as well with the flash assisting it, Kota is not going to be able to contend against the rest of the push. Much cleaner play from BDS, so they will indeed get that initial and only opportunity to close this game and the series down in regulation. Obviously not elite games, there's no extra points to be played for here, but still being able to end things here and now.